Chapter 1247. Chen Jingrong waited for 3 days and also searched for Li Xingyuan. But whether it was Tang Ning or this man, there was no news at all. In the end, after 3 days, Tang Ning sent someone to bring Chen Jingrong to Hai Rui and arranged for her to meet in a private waiting room. Chen Jingrong was very nervous. After all, Tang Ning was the representative of intelligent women in this era. She was good at seeing through people with one glance. So, Chen Jingrong felt that as she stood in front of Tang Ning, she could see through all her thoughts. Mrs. Mo, Tang Ning turned around elegantly. Although she was already in her 50s, she did not show any signs of aging. She looked like she was in her early 30s. Wasn't this mother a little too young? Relax, there's no need to be so nervous, Tang Ning said to Chen Jingrong. I know what happened between you and my son. I'm a little embarrassed, Chen Jingrong quickly explained. I have no intention of interfering. Everything was resolved according to the rules of the industry, including the man that stood up for you, Tang Ning replied. Old people don't understand and don't want to get involved in the matters of the young. But everything has a limit. I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. I didn't ask you to come today to make things difficult for you. I understand your intentions. You want to help that male model. But I have a question for you. What is your relationship with that man? Chen Jingrong looked at Tang Ning timidly. After a moment of silence, she finally replied, We like each other. Don't you like my son? Zishi has always been my dream. When I first found out that he wanted to propose to me, I felt like my dream had come true. But now, I've woken up from my dream and everything has returned to reality. Towards Zishi, I feel unwillingness, but towards this man, I can't let go. Chen Jingrong replied honestly. I can also promise you that as long as I find Li Xingyuan, I am willing to leave Zishi and Yao Anqi's life. Tang Ning looked at Chen Jingrong the entire time. She could tell that Chen Jingrong wasn't lying at this moment. Child, you can go home. I've heard your request, Tang Ning replied. Since you like him, then put your heart into it. Don't use deceptive methods. That is the worst poison to a relationship. Thank you, Mrs. Mo. Back when I was your age, I didn't necessarily do better than you. We were just competing with each other, but now I don't care, Tang Ning replied. That's why I can't really hate you because you still have a conscience. Since that's the case, may I be so bold as to ask Mrs. Mo for a favor? Can you help me find Li Xingyuan? Tang Ning did not give Chen Jingrong an answer. She simply told her to go home first. For Hai Rui, finding someone was a piece of cake. But why would they help them? Tang Ning once again kept Chen Jingrong in suspense for 3 days. On the 4th day, she finally sent Chen Jingrong a message. Li Xingyuan was currently at a photographer's home, begging for a chance to film for him. As soon as Mo Zishi returned home and heard about the incident, he couldn't help but sigh. But after lamenting about Chen Jingrong, Mo Zishi still hugged his mother. Mom, thank you for worrying about me after worrying about Zichen. Don't let your father hear these words. Dad is not a fool. How could he not understand? The reason why he tolerated us was because he loved you and knew that you would be sad. These words were very useful to Tang Ning. After all, she had relied on Mo Ting's love to get to where she was today. You have a sweet mouth and know how to coax people. Now, there's only one left in our family. Mo Zishi was referring to Zian. But, from the looks of it, Zian didn't seem to have the need to be in a relationship. She was busy every day and even dragged Xingzhe to her side from time to time. Tang Ning smiled without saying a word. As a mother, she more or less understood her daughter's feelings. Some people only needed a glance for 10,000 years. From what Mom said, does Zian have a boyfriend? Tang Ning's silence was a tacit admission. Otherwise, why did you think someone as smart and studious as her would go to school and take over Hai Rui? It was all because there was a figure in the school that attracted her. Mo Zishi did not ask any further. After all, he was going to find out sooner or later. But as soon as he returned home, he casually mentioned the matter to Yao Anqi. As soon as Yao Anqi heard this, she suddenly thought of Zian's mischievous behavior. The person that Zian likes must be outstanding. I'm afraid he's not bad-looking. After all, with her father as a benchmark, Mo Zian's standards were actually quite high. Let's not talk about Zian anymore. Let's talk about us, Yao Anchi said with a serious expression as she held onto Mo Zishi. What's wrong? My period is a few days late. I want to go to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. Logically speaking, with my body, it shouldn't be easy for me to get pregnant again. Nonsense, with me around, why can't you get pregnant? As long as Mo Zishi was at home, he didn't need to sleep at night. So, how could it be difficult for him to get pregnant? Although the doctor had told Yao Anchi something similar in the past, he simply said that she couldn't have an abortion. Yao Anchi glared at Mo Zishi. How dare he brag about his body? Mo Zishi did not care about anything else as he carried Yao Anchi in his arms. Yao Anchi was shocked. You can't touch me tonight. What if we really have a child? Mo Zishi laughed and explained, do you think I'm an animal? I simply didn't want you to walk, so I carried you out. Of course you are an animal. Anchi, help me give birth to a daughter. That way, I'll have both a son and a daughter. After speaking, Mo Zishi placed Yao Anchi on the bed and placed a kiss on her stomach. Yao Anchi's gaze immediately softened. She had a feeling that if she was really pregnant, the child in her stomach was going to be a daughter. The next day, Yao Anchi went to work and stopped by the OB/GYN department for a checkup. 2 hours later, she received a blood test report and it was confirmed that she was pregnant. Although Mo Zishi had gone to the army, he quickly called to check on her. Yao Anchi couldn't stand him anymore, so she simply said, your dream has come true. I'm pregnant. I'm going to be a father again. Mo Zishi exclaimed excitedly. Luckily, he did not forget about Xingzhe. Yes, you're going to be a father again. Yao Anchi was also excited. This time, Mo Zishi was by her side and he was going to experience the pain of childbirth with her. Chapter 1248. Mo Zishi was excited and proud. Thinking back to the time he spent with Yao Anchi, they practically spent every night together. So, he wasn't surprised that Yao Anchi was pregnant. But this time, he didn't want Yao Anchi to endure the pain of childbirth on her own. That night, he rushed home from the military base. As soon as he opened the door and saw Yao Anchi, Mo Zishi couldn't help but pull her into his arms. Anchi, Anchi. Yao Anchi was shocked and hurriedly asked him to put her down. Be careful of the child. Mo Zishi immediately put Yao Anchi down. He was so excited that he looked like a little lunatic. How many days has it been? What did the gynecologist say? What to do? I feel like I have to buy some books to read. I'm so nervous right now that I can't control myself. Seeing his reaction, Yao Anchi immediately held onto his head and placed a kiss on his lips. Don't be nervous, you don't need to do anything. You already gave birth to Xingzhe, so you won't feel so bad this time. Mo Zishi took this opportunity to wrap his arms around Yao Anchi's waist and deepen the kiss. The couple ended up passionately kissing in the living room. Finally, Mo Zishi couldn't take it anymore and hurriedly went to the bedroom to take a cold shower. Because he knew that from now on he would have to abstain from sex again. Although Yao Anchi's heart ached for him, at this crucial moment, the two of them had to control themselves. Have you told your family about this good news? Mo Zishi asked as he stepped out of the bathroom. Yao Anchi shook her head. I haven't had the time yet. Why don't you tell him? Mo Zishi thought about how the couple hadn't made a move yet, so he couldn't help but give his mother a phone call. Mom, what's wrong? Tell me. Anchi is pregnant again, Mo Zishi said excitedly. She's been pregnant for about a month. After hearing this, Tongning couldn't help but be shocked by Mo Zishi's speed. In the end, she couldn't help but laugh. You sure are impolite. You already have two, but your brother doesn't even have one. I want Zichen to be jealous, Mo Zishi laughed. Why should I be a physics teacher? I should hurry up and have a child. His situation is different from yours. Mo Zishi didn't want a child because he wanted to protect the child and Qianlan. After all, his identity was too special. He couldn't be like Mo Zishi, who casually gave birth to a child that his enemies could use against him. So, Mo Zichen decided not to have a child for the time being. But Mo Zishi had no idea about any of this. He had always thought that his brother was purely a physics teacher. But he had no idea that the things that Mo Zichen had done over the years were so shocking. Alright, I know you're here to show off. I'll rush him later. But, for the Emo family, Yao Anqi's pregnancy was a joyous occasion. After all, who didn't like having a house full of grandchildren? Emo Ting's generation didn't have any siblings, but they gave birth to 3 in one go. Plus, Emo Zishi had made a good start, so the 2 rascals behind him would definitely follow. Emo Zishi chuckled as he hung up the phone. Meanwhile, Tongning gave Emo Zichin a phone call. Your sister-in-law is pregnant again. Your brother wants to know when you guys will make a move. Emo Zichin looked at Qianlong helplessly. We've only just started our 2-person world. Who would want to learn from him? She's almost ready. If you and Qianlong can't take care of her, you can leave it to your sister. She's more than happy to take care of her. Mom, next time Go calls to show off, don't mention it to me. Qianlong and I have our own plans. How long has it been since the 2 of you last saw each other? Tongning asked. There are some things that you should let your brother know. I understand. There's a family gathering in 2 days. Bring Qianlong home, Tongning instructed. Emo Zichin had no choice but to agree. He then looked at Qianlong with a hurt expression. Sister-in-law is pregnant again. This means that big brother and sister-in-law are living a happy life. Qianlong changed into her pajamas and lay down in bed. Aren't you going to get some rest? Qianlong, why don't we have a child too? Is your identity really okay? Qianlong asked. It's okay, I know you have a lot of concerns. I can wait. After all, we are still young. Plus, when Big Brother's child grows up, he can help us take care of it. Isn't that great? Emo Zichin's identity was not up to him. So, after lying in bed, Emo Zichin hugged Qianlong and apologized. I'm sorry, why are you apologizing to me? Qianlong asked. Because I can't give you a normal family, Emo Zichin said as he kissed Qianlong on the back. I'm not a good husband. I'm the one who decides whether you're a good husband or not. I'm the one who decides whether you're a good husband, not you. Qianlong turned around and pounced into Emo Zichin's arms. As long as you're by my side, that's enough for me. After hearing this, Emo Zichin gently pressed Qianlong under his body and pressed his nose against hers. I want you, what's the point of me objecting? Qianlong said as she hooked her arms around Emo Zichin's neck. Afterwards, a series of kisses landed on various parts of Qianlong's body as a fire ignited in her heart. It was so painful that she couldn't control herself. That night, perhaps because of guilt, Emo Zichin was exceptionally gentle as he took care of Qianlong's feelings the entire time. In fact, as the couple climbed into the clouds, Emo Zichin removed the condom and left the fire inside Qianlong's body. But Qianlong was exhausted, so she had no idea that Emo Zichin wasn't using a condom. She fell into a deep sleep as Emo Zichin cleaned her up. Afterwards, she lay comfortably in Emo Zichin's arms. In the dark, Emo Zichin hugged Qianlong and kissed her ear. I want a child. I want a well-behaved daughter like you. Qianlong made a sound but did not say a word. She thought she was dreaming. Emo Zichin smiled and also fell asleep. Hopefully, he would hear the good news of becoming a father in a month's time. Qin Jingrong already found out where Li Xingyuan was hiding, but she was not in a rush to find him. Hai Rui had already lifted the ban on him, but he had no idea that he was still wasting his time at a famous photographer's studio, hoping to get a rare photo opportunity. Qin Jingrong followed Li Xingyuan for a few days straight. The confident man at the bar had completely disappeared. All that was left was a haggard appearance. This made Qin Jingrong feel extremely uncomfortable. Although Li Xingyuan wasn't a good person, after losing everything because of her, he did not ask for anything from her. Instead, he endured the pain and hid far away. There was no reason for her not to fall for a man like this. Chapter 1249. Because of this, Qin Jingrong teamed up with the photographer to set a trap for Li Xingyuan. The photographer knew that Li Xingyuan's ban had been lifted, so he was happy to cooperate with Qin Jingrong. So, he told Li Xingyuan that he agreed to shoot for him and gave him a place to work. The next night, Li Xingyuan arrived on time. But, as soon as he entered the studio, he saw Qin Jingrong holding a bouquet of roses. Li Xingyuan froze, but Qin Jingrong continued to approach him. Li Xingyuan was at a loss. At this time, Qin Jingrong suddenly knelt down on one knee and said, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I apologize. Xingyuan, I want to be with you, but I don't know if you're still willing. I will change the things I did wrong in the past and I will forget the people I once liked. I just want to have a new beginning with you. Can you give me that chance? Li Xingyuan watched as Chen Jingrong knelt on the ground like a man. How could he hold on any longer? He lifted Chen Jingrong up in his arms and threw her onto the bed behind him. He then took advantage of this time to remove his suit jacket and pants before he pressed Chen Jingrong underneath his body. Afterwards, he crazily bit and demanded. Chen Jingrong couldn't handle his strength, but because he was the person she liked, she could accept it no matter how rough he was. After the pleasure, Li Xingyuan finally calmed down and hugged Chen Jingrong. Why did you come all the way here? I've been following you for a few days, Chen Jingrong admitted. Haven't you noticed that someone's been following you? Do you like me that much? Li Xingyuan asked with uncertainty. If I didn't like you, I wouldn't have gone to the Mo family to plead for you. I know you need your pride, but you ended up like this because of me, so I feel responsible. If you don't accept my kindness, I'll feel guilty for the rest of my life. Chen Jingrong explained. No wonder the photographer responded to me again. It turns out. Li Xingyuan smiled bitterly. Are you unhappy? No, I've already thought it through. I originally planned to look for you after I dealt with the situation here, but I never expected that you'd come looking for me. Li Xingyuan hugged Chen Jingrong even tighter. Do you want to marry me? Chen Jingrong took the opportunity to ask Li Xingyuan. Do you want to? Li Xingyuan didn't reply. Instead, he used his body to prove what he wanted. This was the best ending, wasn't it? A few days later, at the Mo family's gathering, Mo Zishi and Mo Zichen were ordered to return home. Meanwhile, it was Qian Lan and Yao Anqi's first time meeting each other. The sisters-in-law hit it off very well, so it didn't take long before they forgot about their man and started chatting. Mo Zishi felt a little helpless. He turned to look at his younger brother and said, When you were making a ruckus, I didn't get to watch the show. But I saw your fun, Mo Zichen said viciously. I never thought that my dream would come true. No wonder I couldn't reach you. You've got so many years of combat experience. It was very dangerous. I almost died 5 or 6 times. It wasn't easy for me to survive, Mo Zichen smiled bitterly. Bro, are you unhappy? Why would I be unhappy? I'm really happy for you. Zichen, I've never been as capable as you, but there's one thing that you've lost to me. In fact, you'll never be able to beat me in this lifetime. I have 2 children now, but you don't have a single one. Seeing how childish Mo Zishi was, Mo Zichen couldn't help but laugh. I was afraid that you'd be unhappy. Deputy Director, is your brother such a petty person? But, from now on, if you're in danger, you need to find a way to contact me, okay? Mo Zichen nodded his head. After all these years, his brotherly relationship with Mo Zishi was still as good as ever. Of course, this was all thanks to their mother. Tongning children that didn't lack love naturally didn't fight with each other. Chapter 1250. That night, the Mo family home was very lively. Seeing that her 2 sons had their own families and that Mo Zishi was now a father, Tongning felt an indescribable bitterness in her heart. A flash marriage at 26 years old gave her a happy family. So, Tongning couldn't help but cry in front of her children. Mommy, why are you crying? When Dad comes home, he's going to think that we bullied you. When that happens, we're going to get beaten up again. Mo Zian quickly wiped away Tongning's tears. Your 2 brothers each have their own families. What about you? I'm still young, Mo Zian said coyly as she leaned against Tongning. Tongning couldn't do anything about it, so she lectured. You're already the CEO of Hai Rui. You're still young. Your mommy debuted on the runway in her teens. I still want to study for a few more years. Go ahead. It's up to you. Tongning did not interfere with Mo Zian's life, just like how she didn't interfere with the Mo brothers. For her, fate was determined by the heavens, especially when it came to relationships. There was no way to force it. So, she allowed Mo Zian to explore the world on her own. Even if she ended up hurting herself, it didn't matter. That night, the Mo family home was filled with laughter and chatter. But it was all about the children. Xingzhe was doted on by the entire family, so he wasn't afraid that his soon-to-be-born sister would compete for his love. A month later, Yao Anqi unexpectedly received an invitation in her office. She never expected that Chen Jingrong and Li Xingyuan would decide to get married. Afterwards, Yao Anqi took the invitation home and handed it to Mo Zishi to decide whether to go or not. Mo Zishi's mind was completely focused on Yao Anqi. How could he have time for anything else? So, he handed the decision back to Yao Anqi. After careful consideration, Yao Anqi decided to go. After all, she could truly feel Mo Zishi's love. She didn't mind if Chen Jingrong and Mo Zishi met. After all, now that Chen Jingrong had a male model, she didn't necessarily care about Mo Zishi. A week later, Yao Anqi and Mo Zishi appeared at the grand wedding ceremony. As soon as Chen Jingrong saw them, she was extremely touched as she personally thanked them. "I thought you guys wouldn't come. He happened to be at home, so I came over to join in the fun. Anqi, I really want to thank you guys. Did you know that?" Chen Jingrong raised her glass to apologize to Yao Anqi, but Mo Zishi stopped her. "She's pregnant, so there's no need to drink." Chen Jingrong never expected that they would have a second child so soon. In the end, she smiled in relief. "Congratulations and blessings. Without you, I don't think I would have found the love that truly belongs to me." "Don't be so extreme from now on," Mo Zishi said. "Of course, I will cherish this hard-earned relationship." Afterwards, Chen Jingrong and Li Xingyuan went to greet the guests, but Mo Zishi secretly left with Yao Anqi because he felt bad. "What happened?" "I feel sorry for marrying you, but I didn't even get to propose to you. I didn't even get to see you wear a beautiful wedding dress, yet you ended up with a child," Mo Zishi complained. "I don't mind. Our relationship has always been unpredictable," Yao Anqi laughed. "Look, my parents never held a wedding ceremony either. But they've grown old together. So, a wedding is just a formality. It's not as important to me as you think." Mo Zishi patted Yao Anqi on the head. He still felt like he owed her. But it didn't take long before the Mo family received another piece of good news. Qianlan was also pregnant. However, when Qianlan saw the pregnancy test, she looked at it helplessly. "We obviously used birth control. Why do we still have it?" "Silly, I tampered with it," Mo Zichen replied. "You didn't even ask me if I agreed to it." "What should we do now?" "You're already pregnant," Mo Zichen comforted. "Instructor Qian, the earlier a woman gets pregnant, the easier it is for her to recover." "I don't believe you," Mo Zichen snorted. Most importantly, Qianlan had just been tasked with training new soldiers. But, now that she was pregnant, what else could she do? Of course, she was blaming Mo Zichen, but deep down she was overjoyed. After all, she had been looking forward to their child for a long time. "But Big Bro already has 2 babies and we have a little one. But what about little sis?" Qianlan began to worry about Mo Zian. Mo Zichen humphed and said in disdain, "Why are you worried about her? Don't you think she has a lot of suitors?" "But I've never seen Zian in a relationship. That's because the person she likes isn't ordinary." When it came to intelligence, was there anything that could be hidden from Mo Zichen? A long time ago, he already knew about Zian's intention to stay at the university. After all, she was crazy about the gentleman professor. But the professor did not seem to care. "According to what you're saying, doesn't that mean Zian won't succeed?" "That's hard to say. According to his sister's personality, as long as she wanted something, she would wait for it no matter how much patience she had to put in. But it all depended on whether she would be enlightened sooner or later. But it's embarrassing for a member of the Mo family to chase after a man." What Mo Zichen meant was that Zian wasn't charismatic enough and couldn't even win over a man. Over the next few days, the Mo family held another family dinner. This time, it was to celebrate Qianlan's pregnancy. As long as something big happened at home, Tongning was happy to have a party. After all, this way, the family would feel closer to each other. But, because her 2 brothers had already completed their marriages, Zian naturally became the target of ridicule. "Look at you, you don't even have a boyfriend." "Exactly. Stop clinging to my son. If you're capable, go ahead and give birth to one yourself," Mo Zishi despised Xian's actions of taking over his son. Mo Xian was helpless, so she quickly ran away. Seeing this, Tongning did not expose her daughter. Instead, after the dinner, she said to her husband in private, "Ting, why don't you look around and see if there are any suitable young men among your friends that you can save for your daughter? Do you think she'll be willing?" Mo Ting asked. "But it's not a good idea for her to continue being one-sided," Tongning replied. "Although I don't want to interfere with their relationship, I don't want to see my precious baby suffer this kind of humiliation. If she's your precious baby, what about me?" After hearing this, Tongning couldn't help but laugh. "You're everything to me." Mo Ting was satisfied. "Let's wait a little longer. Give our daughter some time." At this moment, Mo Xian was hiding in her room and feeling terrible. She didn't know if she could continue to hold on after so many years. Chapter 1251. Mo Xian had a lot of admirers because she wasn't arrogant towards anyone. But she was careful to keep her distance from the opposite sex, especially when Gu Qingli was around. Gu Qingli was 30 years old and was the youngest professor at the university. He was elegant and elegant. He always moved in slow motion, but Mo Xian loved how unhurried he was. In fact, this lasted for a few years. From the moment she entered university, she had already noticed this man. Even after she graduated, she refused to leave because she wanted to have more chances to bump into Gu Qingli. But Gu Qingli seemed to be isolated from the world and didn't get close to anyone. She once wrote Gu Qingli a letter, but it was like a stone dropped into the ocean and she never heard from him again. She assumed that Gu Qingli probably didn't like people like her, so he didn't even respond to her. Or perhaps, it was because there were too many people that liked him and he couldn't pay attention to them all. But being in a one-sided relationship for so long was tiring. Especially when she saw that her brothers were already married and had 2 babies, she realized that no matter how much she liked Gu Qingli, if he didn't have any feelings for her, there was nothing she could do to force him. "Xian, are you packing your things to go home?" one of her roommates asked as soon as she saw Mo Xian packing her things. "Yes, it's more convenient to go home." "Have you given up on Professor Gu? Perhaps he can only be a distant dream for me." After speaking, Mo Xian put on her backpack and left the dormitory with her books. Because she was familiar with his lifestyle, she was able to bump into Gu Qingli whenever she wanted. The elegant man always arrived at the university at 8 a.m. and sat in the cafe for an hour. He seemed to have a lot of suits. Mo Xian secretly counted and realized he had around 30 sets. He liked to wear quartz watches and they were all expensive. He was elegant and had an extraordinary way of speaking. No matter how she looked at him, he didn't look like a professor. He looked more like a leader of a company. He was obviously elegant like a scholar, but he preferred to read science and engineering books. One time, Mo Xian even caught a glimpse of the edge of his underwear. It was a luxury item from Italy that normal people couldn't afford. But no matter how familiar Mo Zishi was with him, there was no way she could attract his attention. So, on this day, she decided to give up on this man and completely end this unrequited love. As usual, Mo Xian sat by the window and watched as Gu Qingli arrived at school. As he sipped his familiar English coffee, his eyes were glued to his books. He was elegant and charming. At noon, he would order a set meal and then slowly sit at his seat, not wasting a single grain. At night, he would drive away from the school and return to his apartment not far from the school. Mo Xian was well aware of this. After lunch, Mo Xian picked up her backpack and stood up. At this time, a girl from the university approached Gu Qingli and handed him a love letter. "Professor Gu, please accept this." Gu Qingli lifted his head and glanced at the 2 before he gently pushed them away. "Sorry, I'm already married." As soon as she heard this, Mo Xian's heart throbbed in pain. Although she already guessed it, when she heard it from Gu Qingli's mouth, she still felt so sad that tears began to fall from her eyes. Ever since she was young, she had always been envious of her parents' love. But she knew that every relationship was unique. Plus, she had no idea why she was poisoned by Gu Qingli and couldn't stop herself. Now that Gu Qingli said that he was married, she could finally give up. But, just as she was about to leave, the owner of the restaurant smiled and approached Gu Qingli. "Why do you keep saying that you're married? Kids these days aren't mature enough. It's too easy for them to say that they like me. In reality, they simply care about my looks. Hearing these words from Gu Qingli, Mo Xian's heart began to beat again. So, she gathered her courage and walked over to Gu Qingli. Professor Gu, I've actually liked you for a long time. Gu Qingli and the owner of the restaurant were both stunned. I've written you letters before, but I'm guessing you don't remember. Today, I'm preparing to leave the university. When I saw someone confessing to you, I decided to join in on the fun. Don't worry, although I like you, I've already decided to give up. Professor Gu, I wish you the best. After saying these words, Mo Xian turned around and walked out of the restaurant with her head held high. At this time, the owner of the restaurant said to Gu Qingli, I remember this child. She arrives every day after you arrive. It's been about 3 years. Although Gu Qingli's body did not move, a ripple appeared in his heart. Afterwards, he returned to his office and searched around for a long time. Finally, he found the yellowed love letter. Gu Qingli opened it up and realized that it had been written for 4 years. What did it feel like to have a crush on someone for 4 years? Gu Qingli didn't understand, but his impression of Mo Xian was that she was always optimistic and well-liked by the teachers and students. He never expected that this gentle girl would have a crush on him, especially after so many years. After Mo Xian returned home, she threw herself into Tang Ning's arms and cried. She then held back her tears and decided to start working at Hai Rui the next day. At least, without love, she still had her family. Tang Ning's heart ached for her daughter. After all, Mo Xian didn't need anyone to worry about her since she was young. Mo Xian was able to plan her own life and didn't burden Tang Ning at all. Mommy, it's so tiring to have a crush on someone. My daughter is so outstanding, I'm sure she'll meet someone better, Tang Ning comforted as she patted Mo Xian on the head. Mommy, I'll sleep with you tonight. You'll have to ask your father, Tang Ning laughed. Mo Xian simply wanted to act coquettishly, but she knew that Mo Ting wouldn't let her go. So, after wiping her tears away in Tang Ning's arms, she returned to her room and sealed everything about Gu Qingli. But, to her surprise, just before she went to bed, she received a text from an unknown number. The words on the text once again threw her into disarray. I didn't see the letter. Teachers all had their students' contact details, so Mo Xian wasn't curious. She simply couldn't believe it, so she asked, Are you Professor Gu? That's me, Gu Qingli replied quickly. Mo Xian's heart raced like she had won the lottery. What should I say next? What should I say? Chapter 1252. Why did you leave the university? I've seen your courses. Are you not going to get a degree? Could Mo Xian tell him that it was because she couldn't continue her one-sided love? Plus, since Gu Qingli had already read the letter and heard her confession, what kind of standpoint was he using to ask her about it now? Was he going to continue to play dumb? I have a class tomorrow. You need to be on time. Okay, Mo Xian replied. She had completely forgotten how hard it had been for her to make up her mind to forget about Gu Qingli. A few words from Gu Qingli had changed her mind and reignited her fighting spirit. Get some rest. See you tomorrow. Gu Qingli was very calm. He had always been elegant, so he did not express his intentions. He simply spoke like a teacher caring for his student. Even so, Mo Xian was satisfied. At least, she felt that she was special in Gu Qingli's heart. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent her a private message just to ask her to go to class the next day. The next morning, Mo Xian packed her things and headed to school with her backpack. But she noticed Tang Ning's expression. Aren't you going to work? The female Sue. Mommy, let me go to class first, Mo Xian said as she planted a kiss on Tang Ning's cheek and left. Actually, after so many years at Hai Rui, with Feng Yu and Lu Che around, Mo Xian didn't need to work at all. Plus, Mo Ting had been relatively lenient towards her over the years, so she could still act shamelessly in front of Tang Ning. So, Mo Xian headed to school in high spirits. Her first class was Gu Qingli's. As soon as Mo Xian entered the classroom and saw Gu Qingli walk up to the podium, her heart began to race. Although Gu Qingli was slow, his lecture was lively and interesting. Mo Xian laughed and clapped along with the other students. Afterwards, Gu Qingli handed out some documents. Copy these documents home and print them out for revision. The upcoming exams are very important, so I won't be giving you a second copy. As for those that don't come to class, they won't receive their exam results. After speaking, the students all went to copy the documents while Gu Qingli stood to one side. Just as Mo Zian stood up and was about to go make a copy, she received a message from Gu Qingli. I've made a copy for you. It's in the dining room. Go get it at noon. Mo Zian's face turned red as she quietly returned to her seat. However, her heart was filled with joy. Sorry for the trouble, Professor Gu, Mo Zian replied. See you in the afternoon, Gu Qingli replied. He didn't say anything else. Because he had classes in the afternoon. To prevent Mo Zian from feeling awkward, Gu Qingli immediately left the classroom after class. Meanwhile, Mo Zian headed straight to the cafeteria to grab some documents. Seeing this, the lady boss was very happy. Little girl, I think you are very promising. As soon as Mo Zian received the information, she saw that there were notes and important points highlighted. Her heart was filled with excitement. On the last page of the information, Gu Qingli had written in strong handwriting, "Focus on your studies and focus on your studies." In truth, the underlying meaning was, "Don't leave." Mo Zian returned to her dormitory with the documents in her hands. As soon as her roommate saw her, she immediately asked, "Didn't you say you left school?" "I've thought it through. I don't want to leave for now." "In that case, shall we have classes together in the afternoon?" "Okay," Mo Zian nodded. Just the thought of Gu Qingli's classes made Mo Zian extremely excited. Because she really did not think that this unrequited love would have a day where the bitterness was over and the sweetness came. During class in the afternoon, Mo Zian had already calmed down a little. But when she saw Gu Qingli's elegant demeanor, she was still mesmerized. A moment later, Mo Zian's phone vibrated. As soon as she saw the message, her face turned red. "Pay attention in class. A good teacher caught a bad student." Mo Zian put down her phone and pretended to pay attention in class again. But she couldn't focus at all. Just as class was about to end and Mo Zian felt like she could breathe again, she received another message from Gu Qingli. "Want to have dinner together tonight?" How could he take it so naturally? But could she reject him? All she could do was reply, "Okay." So, after class, she waited outside the classroom for Gu Qingli to finish work. Afterwards, Gu Qingli came out of his office and walked with Mo Zian. Mo Zian felt like she was being watched the entire time. But Gu Qingli did not notice anything was wrong. After all, everyone knew that she was his student. "What do you like to eat?" Gu Qingli asked gently. "I'm fine with anything. I'm not picky," Mo Zian replied. "I know a good restaurant. Let's go there." Gu Qingli led Mo Zian to the parking lot and drove her around Beijing to a very elegant restaurant. Afterwards, the couple sat down at a table by the window. As soon as Mo Zian's gaze landed on this man, she couldn't look away. But Gu Qingli did not mind at all. "This is my first time taking a female student out to dinner. You mentioned yesterday that you got married. That's just a shield," Gu Qingli replied as he sipped on his coffee. "Plus, if you hadn't said what you said yesterday, I may have continued to use you as a shield." Mo Zian was embarrassed. She didn't know how to face Gu Qingli. "Where did your courage from yesterday go?" Gu Qingli couldn't help but laugh when he saw this. "She's a girl. She's shy," Mo Zian replied. "Zian, you're a good and likable girl," Gu Qingli commented. "Have you looked at the information?" Finally changing the subject, Mo Zian nodded her head. "I have. Thank you, Professor Gu. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to tell me," Gu Qingli said. "I don't know what else I can do for you apart from that." Mo Zian felt that Gu Qingli was way too reserved. She had already been so direct with her words, yet he was still acting like this. So, to prevent herself from thinking too much, Mo Zian gathered her courage and said, "Professor Gu, you know how I feel about you, right? I was very clear about it yesterday. Then, since you know and are still willing to get in touch with me, does that mean, it means that I've been paying attention to you?" Gu Qingli replied in seriousness. But the school has a rule that students and teachers can't get too close to each other. Even so, I still want to try getting in touch with you. So, Zian, you don't need to be so cautious around me. Let's go with the flow. What do you think? This man was so gentle that Zian fell head over heels for him. So, of course she was willing. Even in her dreams. In that case, let's order what you like. Zian held onto the menu and picked out what Gu Qingli liked the most. After 4 years of observation, she was well aware of this man's preferences. So, you know what I like. Chapter 1253. Zian realized that she had been too proactive and exposed a lot of information. Did Gu Qingli think that she wasn't being reserved? I just noticed it once in a while. Gu Qingli smiled and did not probe any further. Women were shy, so he couldn't reject Zian's request. It seems I need to work harder. Zian didn't understand what he meant. I understand you. Zian had to admit that she enjoyed the dinner, but at the same time, she felt a little restricted. She wanted to present her perfect side to Gu Qingli, but this made her feel like she was being restrained. Gu Qingli sensed that she was being cautious, so after dinner, he said to her, "From now on, you can eat whatever you want. Since I'm already here, I won't leave." Zian lifted her head and looked at Gu Qingli's warm smile. This was the kind of person that made Zian unable to stop herself. "Let's go, I'll take you home." "I'm staying on campus," Zian replied. "I'll take you around the campus." Gu Qingli locked his car and walked in front of Zian. Zian was a little surprised. So, he said he was going for a walk. Zian followed behind Gu Qingli like a student. Gu Qingli couldn't help but laugh when he saw this. "Come over here." Zian walked over and stood side by side with Gu Qingli. At this time, they still ran into quite a few students along the way. But no one paid much attention to the relationship between Gu Qingli and Zian. After all, every now and then, a student would approach Gu Qingli. Soon, the two arrived at Zian's dormitory. While no one was around, Gu Qingli said in a serious tone, "After hearing what you said yesterday, I thought you were a brave girl. But it turns out you're also a coward." "Yesterday, I was too anxious," Zian said as she lowered her head in embarrassment. "Zian, I'm not as scary as you think," Gu Qingli said as he patted Zian on the head. After speaking, Gu Qingli stretched out his hand and patted Zian on the head. "After you go upstairs, have a good rest and attend class tomorrow." "Okay, Professor Gu," Zian nodded. After watching Tongning head upstairs, Gu Qingli smiled helplessly. "I originally thought you were a sly little fox, but you turned out to be an obedient bunny." In reality, Zian wasn't satisfied with her performance today. Because in front of Gu Qingli, she appeared very clumsy. She didn't know what it was for. In front of others, she clearly had no problem communicating with them. That night, Zian and Gu Qingli did not exchange any messages with each other. It was like the previous night never happened. This made Zian feel like everything that had just happened was a dream. The next morning, Zian attended Gu Qingli's class again. Zian listened to Gu Qingli's class in a daze. She couldn't believe that this high and mighty man actually had a relationship with her. After the bell rang, all the students in the classroom quickly left. Zian slowly stood up, but Gu Qingli called out to her. "Student Zian, stay behind. Were you paying attention just now?" When the other students heard that the professor was about to scold them, they quickly left the classroom. Meanwhile, Zian looked at Gu Qingli in confusion. After Gu Qingli walked down the steps, he said to Zian, "I'll give you a question. Do you want to listen?" "You don't have any more classes?" Zian asked happily. "I've already looked at your schedule. I don't have any more." After speaking, Gu Qingli removed his suit jacket and placed it on the desk. He then pointed at the question on the blackboard with an infrared camera and explained it to Zian. Was he holding a small class just for her? Or did Gu Qingli know that she was biased towards subjects, so he deliberately asked her to stay? Zian's heart was filled with sweetness. She could sense how special Gu Qingli was to her, so her face blushed under the sunlight, making it easy for others to imagine. The two of them stayed in the classroom for the entire class. Mo Zian nodded her head. After confirming that she was fine, Gu Qingli finally let her go. I still have one more class. Help me order lunch from the cafeteria, Gu Qingli instructed as Mo Zian left. Mo Zian nodded her head and made an gesture. Same seat, I'll wait for you. Mo Zian kept reminding herself not to fall head over heels in love with Gu Qingli. But there were plenty of people in the school that fell head over heels in love with Gu Qingli. Yet, she was lucky enough to have some sort of connection with Gu Qingli. After arriving at the cafeteria, Mo Zian excitedly ordered a set meal for Gu Qingli. Meanwhile, she sat in her usual seat. She could see Gu Qingli, but she wasn't too close to him. Soon, Gu Qingli arrived at the cafeteria after class. When he saw the food on the table, he smiled. As expected, Mo Zian understood his habits well. Mo Zian sat not too far away and watched as the surrounding students discussed Gu Qingli. This man was too likable, so Mo Zian couldn't help but feel a little jealous. The two sat in separate seats in the cafeteria without saying a word. But no one knew that the two of them had a telepathic connection. After Gu Qingli finished eating, he left the cafeteria. At this time, the boss of the cafeteria approached Mo Zian and said, I thought you ordered 2 sets of food for yourself. I never thought you ordered it for Professor Gu. Boss, don't spread the news. Okay, I won't spread the news. If you need anything else, just let me know, the boss said enthusiastically. Mo Zian gestured her thanks and stood up to leave. She followed Gu Qingli not too far away and the two of them were only a few meters apart. A moment later, Gu Qingli sent her a message. Have you finished your homework? Mo Zian's face turned red. It turned out he had discovered her. Be a good girl. Go home and get some rest. I'll give you a phone call after class in the afternoon. After Mo Zian received her orders, she did not continue following Gu Qingli. Instead, she returned to her dormitory to rest. When her roommate saw this, she could not help but ask, Zian, you've been acting strange the past 2 days. Is it because you failed to win Professor Gu's heart that you've become twisted? You have to know that the number of people who are in love with Professor Gu in our school has already circled the world twice. It's normal that you can't get him. Furthermore, you have a one-sided crush on him. I'm fine. I'm not twisted. Mo Zian laughed. Plus, if I can't get Professor Gu's heart, no one else can either. I'm quite satisfied. That's right. Mo Zian's roommate patted Mo Zian on the shoulder. I suspect that Professor Gu likes men. Look, there are so many beautiful women on campus. Forget about the students, look at how many teachers try to flirt with him, but he's never moved. Your analysis makes sense, Mo Zian nodded in agreement. That's why good men are all taken away by other men. Chapter 1254. Mo Zian couldn't help but laugh, but she did not continue her conversation with her roommate. Because she received a phone call from Gu Qingli. Zian, are you free? Yes, Professor Gu, what's up? Go to the school entrance and help me get my documents, Gu Qingli said. After speaking, Mo Zian changed into a pair of shoes and headed to the school entrance to retrieve Gu Qingli's documents. She then helped him deliver them to his office. At that time, Gu Qingli was preparing for his class. When he lifted his head and saw Mo Zian, he immediately took the documents from her. Are you free this afternoon? Nope. In that case, stay here and read. Let's have dinner together after work. Mo Zian was suspicious of Gu Qingli's motive for calling her out. But with a beauty in front of her, she couldn't care less. Plus, Gu Qingli was obviously testing her. With such a handsome face right in front of her, how could she focus? Gu Qingli seemed to be doing this on purpose as he did not look in Mo Zian's direction at all and continued to prepare for his class. Soon it was time to get off work. You go first, I'll follow you. Gu Qingli was very considerate. He was afraid that Mo Zian would feel uncomfortable, so he asked her to wait downstairs. Mo Zian packed her things and left the office. She then waited outside the school entrance. When she saw Gu Qingli from afar, her heart raced. Gu Qingli didn't drive, so he had to walk quite a distance with Mo Zian to find a place to eat. This made Mo Zian assume that he was trying to avoid being seen by others. But, Gu Qingli explained, "It's not that I don't want others to know of your existence, I just think it's more convenient. I don't want others to disturb your life. Your most important task right now is to focus on your exams." Mo Zian suddenly felt relieved. But, how did Gu Qingli know exactly what she was thinking? She suspected that he had planted a worm in her stomach. "I have a lot of classes, but I want to see you. So, do you mind if I ask you to do a few things for me?" Mo Zian quickly shook her head. Gu Qingli smiled elegantly and looked at his watch. When he realized it was still early, he asked Mo Zian, "Are there any good movies recently? Do you want to go?" Mo Zian suddenly lifted her head, not knowing what to do. "Or are you busy tonight?" "I won't go even if I'm busy," Mo Zian replied anxiously. "I'm saying, I'm free tonight." Little idiot. Mo Zian had already expressed her love for Mo Zian on her face. Did he need to guess? For some reason, Gu Qingli felt that Mo Zian was extremely cute. "What do you want to see? Or are you saying that you can look at anything?" "Anything is fine," Mo Zian replied. After all, she was there to see someone, and Gu Qingli understood what she was thinking, so he helped her and himself by choosing a 3-hour opera. Mo Zian didn't really care what she was looking at. What was important was the person sitting next to her. Gu Qingli was very considerate of Mo Zian's feelings. After dinner, he led Mo Zian to the theater. Mo Zian was fascinated by his upbringing. Such a man was her professor. It didn't take long before Gu Qingli finished preparing the tickets and popcorn. He then asked Mo Zian to follow him into the theater. After they sat down, he placed the popcorn in Mo Zian's hands. "I wasn't sure if you like sweets, but I still bought some." Mo Zian hugged the popcorn in her hands as she stood in the dark, completely elated. "Do you still wonder if you're dreaming?" Gu Qingli suddenly asked just before the movie started. "I'm actually not as unapproachable as you guys think. I'm just a normal person. I won't anymore." Mo Zian shook her head. Gu Qingli's hand was resting on her chair, so at this moment, she finally felt real. "Professor Gu, do you still call me professor in private?" Gu Qingli turned around and looked at Mo Zian with a smile. "Call me Qingli. I'm not much older than you." "But calling me Qingli makes me feel distant," Mo Zian replied. "I'm the 4th oldest child in my family. You can call me brother for." "Brother for," Mo Zian accepted it. At least, she was closer to him than Gu Qingli. "Since we've left the university, we should forget about our identities. You're not a student and I'm not your professor. We are simply a man and a woman, okay? How could it not be?" Mo Zian thought. At this time, Gu Qingli suddenly removed his hand from the chair and held onto Mo Zian's hand in the dark. Mo Zian was a little surprised. She never expected Gu Qingli's hand to be so long and warm. "I think we can be together," Gu Qingli suddenly said to Mo Zian as the lights flickered on the screen. Mo Zian suddenly felt like she was floating in the clouds. But she quickly pinched the back of her hand. When Gu Qingli saw this, he couldn't help but laugh. "It's true. Zian, you're more dazzling and outstanding than you think. It's not that you're not good enough for me, it's that I'm not good enough for you." "Brother for, I just feel like everything happened too quickly, so it didn't feel real." Gu Qingli squeezed Mo Zian's hand. After the film ended, he held onto her hand and slowly walked down the street as he explained, "I'm a person that believes in fate at first sight. You make me feel comfortable and at ease. As for me, as soon as I found out about your feelings, my first reaction was to look for your love letter, not worry about being pestered by you. This means that I've never been against your liking from the start. After spending 2 days with you, I feel like I want to discover the cute side of you. So, I'm willing to be your boyfriend." "I'm sorry, you might think I'm being too casual with my suggestion. I simply thought, you've already known me for 4 years, so I don't think you need to know me any better," Gu Qingli laughed. "Do you agree with my explanation?" Mo Zian couldn't help but nod her head. "I'll try to understand you and care about you. But, I think if you're my girlfriend, I'll feel more at ease. The same goes for you. To me, you're different from everyone else. Since that's the case, why don't I differentiate you from everyone else from the start?" As for Mo Zian, these words were extremely useful. After all, Gu Qingli's words made sense. She understood Gu Qingli well enough. So, the couple went with the flow. However, Mo Zian was already heartbroken. Now that she suddenly had a boyfriend, wouldn't Mo Zian be completely dominated by him? But Gu Qingli never had any intention of dominating Mo Zian. He simply felt that this woman was so obedient that he couldn't help but want to protect and dote on her. Chapter 1255. That night, Mo Zian and Gu Qingli confirmed each other's positions and officially became a couple. After returning to her dormitory, Mo Zian lay in bed and thought about Gu Qingli's face. Her face flushed red and her heart raced. She never imagined that her dream would come true. Gu Qingli was too elegant, like a painting. Yet this man was actually holding her hand. It seemed Mo Zian was destined to have insomnia that night. The next day, Mo Zian woke up with dark circles under her eyes. However, her roommate was quite shocked. "Zian, did you have insomnia last night? Why are your eyes so dark?" Mo Zian immediately went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. But she discovered her eyes were swollen and she couldn't face anyone. Gu Qingli still had class that day. Although she really wanted to go, when she saw her ugly appearance, she decided to skip class. Even though she knew that Gu Qingli would be angry, not long after class ended, she received a phone call from Gu Qingli. The man on the other end of the phone asked calmly, "Why aren't you in class?" "My eyes aren't feeling well. After I came back last night, they were swollen." "Come to the library at noon," Gu Qingli said gently. "I'll wait for you there." Mo Zian had no choice but to put on some makeup to cover up the pain in her eyes. As soon as she entered the library and found Gu Qingli, she quickly lowered her head in case he saw her stupid side. "Look up," Gu Qingli said. Mo Zian lifted her head with difficulty and tried her best to open her eyes. She was expecting her image to be destroyed in an instant. But Gu Qingli simply chuckled and stretched out his hands to massage her eyes. "Did you have insomnia last night?" "Aha," Mo Zian nodded. "I couldn't sleep. I was afraid I was dreaming." Gu Qingli chuckled as his hands became even gentler. "Do you want me to whisper in your ear every day that you're not dreaming? It doesn't feel real." Mo Zian lifted her head and looked at her swollen eyes. But Gu Qingli felt that Mo Zian was extremely cute like this. So, he couldn't help but place a kiss on her lips. "Does it still feel surreal? One more kiss, I'll feel more real." Gu Qingli rubbed Tongning's eyes and said, "I'll give you some extra lessons and then let you go home to get some rest. Next time, you're not allowed to skip my lessons. Even if others don't support me as my girlfriend, shouldn't you support me as well? You don't lack popularity. But I'm missing you." After saying this, Gu Qingli flipped open his textbook and began to tutor Mo Zian. In reality, Mo Zian was more than satisfied. She knew that Gu Qingli was so serious because it was easy for him to fail a subject. He also hoped that Mo Zian would succeed on her first try and no longer have to endure the torture of these engineering courses. Mo Zian looked at the man she loved the entire time. She felt like she had absorbed a lot of energy and her eyes no longer felt so uncomfortable. During class, Gu Qingli did not take up a single minute of Mo Zian's time. After closing his textbook, he said, "Go home and have a good rest. I won't call you out for dinner tonight." "I want to eat with you," Mo Zian immediately said. "Then I'll call you after class." After speaking, Gu Qingli picked up his textbook and patted Mo Zian on the head before he left the library. Meanwhile, Mo Zian was overjoyed. After returning to the dormitory, Mo Zian immediately went to catch up on some sleep. But her dreams were filled with the elegant Gu Qingli. Mo Zian slept until she received a phone call from Gu Qingli. But as she got out of bed, she noticed that her roommate was looking at the information that Gu Qingli had printed out for her. "Zian, you didn't print this yourself, did you?" "That's right." Mo Zian quickly avoided the topic. "Professor Gu's notes are on it." Her roommate looked at her suspiciously. "You're wrong." After speaking, Mo Zian snatched the documents from Mo Zian's hands and hugged them in her arms. "As you know, I have a crush on Professor Gu, so I like to copy him." "That's true. If there was a test related to Professor Gu, I'm sure you'd score full marks. Mo Xian's roommate believed Mo Xian's explanation and did not ask further. Meanwhile, Mo Xian found another place to put the documents away. She then tidied up a little and headed out to look for Gu Qingli. The two agreed to meet outside the school. Gu Qingli wasn't dressed in a suit today. Instead, he was dressed in a white shirt and blue jeans. Even the simplest outfit looked extremely charming to Mo Xian. "Do you want a tissue?" Gu Qingli asked when he saw the glow in Mo Xian's eyes. "How dare you laugh at me?" Mo Xian said angrily. "You must be proud, right?" Gu Qingli chuckled and held onto Mo Xian's hand. "Of course I'm proud to be admired by my girlfriend." Mo Xian lowered her head and looked at the two holding hands. Her heart couldn't help but race. But, after a few steps, Gu Qingli suddenly stopped and let go of Mo Xian's hand. Mo Xian didn't quite understand what was going on. But she soon noticed a well-dressed woman standing not too far away with a 7 to 8-year-old boy. Mo Xian had a feeling that this woman was related to Gu Qingli in some way. As expected, as soon as the light turned green, the woman walked over with the boy. She then approached Gu Qingli and asked, "Son, do you have time to talk? We don't have much to talk about." After speaking, Gu Qingli grabbed onto Mo Xian's hand again and pulled her away from the mother and son. The two did not say a word on the way home. Only after they were quite a distance away did Mo Xian hear Gu Qingli's voice. "Xian, can you accompany me somewhere?" "Okay," Mo Xian replied. Afterwards, Gu Qingli changed cars and drove Mo Xian to a quiet cemetery. Mo Xian felt a little cold, but luckily, Gu Qingli had his arm around her the entire time. "Are you scared?" "You're here," Mo Xian replied. Soon, the two arrived at Gu Qingli's father's grave. Looking at the photo, Gu Qingli's father looked elegant and refined. No wonder Gu Qingli was so elegant. "My father was a sculptor. But when he was 41, he contracted lung cancer. To treat his illness, our family sold all our assets. But who would have thought that the money that saved his life would be used by my mother to invest in stocks? So, in the end, my father died from the pain. From then on, I lived on my own. Because my grades weren't bad, I relied on scholarships to support me until I graduated from university. Afterwards, I made some investments and made a lot of money. I brought you to see my father today not only because it's his birthday, but also because I want you to understand the hidden side of me. I'm afraid I'll never be able to acknowledge my mother in this lifetime. Can you accept that?" Chapter 1256. Mo Xian looked at the man in the shadows and felt her heart ache. So, she walked over to the gravestone and said to Gu Qingli's father, "Hello, Uncle Gu. My name is Mo Xian and I am Brother Four's girlfriend. I hope you don't mind that I'm small. Don't worry, your son is an outstanding person. He's amazing and has become a university professor. There are a lot of people that like him and I am the luckiest one. I hope you like me." After hearing what Mo Xian said to his father, Gu Qingli stretched out his hand and patted Mo Xian on the head. In the darkness of the night, his once lonely heart was suddenly warmed by Mo Xian's company. So, as they walked out of the cemetery, he wrapped his arms around Mo Xian and couldn't help but kiss her on the lips. Mo Xian was surprised. Then, she heard Gu Qingli apologize, "I'm sorry, I couldn't control myself." "I don't mind," Mo Xian replied in seriousness. "You've been lonely for so long. From now on, I will always be by your side." Gu Qingli swept away the sadness in his heart and smiled elegantly. "Let's go, I'll take you to dinner. Aren't you going to ask about my family background?" Mo Xian asked on the way home. "No matter what your family background is, whether you're rich or poor, I can take care of you. So, you don't need to worry," Gu Qingli warned. "I am Mo Ting's youngest daughter," Mo Xian replied. As soon as Gu Qingli heard this, he slammed on the brakes and stopped the car on the side of the road. "What did you say?" "I said, I am Mo Ting and Tongning's daughter." Gu Qingli continued to smile even though he was quite surprised. Logically speaking, Mo Ting and Tongning's daughter should be a famous second-generation celebrity, not an innocent, cute, and student-like girl like Mo Xian. "Are you afraid?" Why would I be afraid? Gu Qingli asked. Because I'm being chased by paparazzi, Mo Zian said exaggeratedly. You have no idea how many paparazzi are watching my home at all times, but they've protected you well. After speaking, the couple arrived at Gu Qingli's apartment. Mo Zian didn't quite understand what he meant. After parking the car, Gu Qingli said to Mo Zian, "Come to my place. I'll personally cook dinner for you." They had only been together for a few days and they were already at each other's place. Wasn't this a little too fast? Little idiot, can you rest assured that you're only going to my place for dinner? Faced with Gu Qingli's teasing, Mo Zian lowered her head shyly. It turned out he had already seen through her thoughts. Then, the two entered the 27th floor. Meanwhile, Mo Zian assumed that Gu Qingli lived on his own. But as soon as he opened the door to the living room, Mo Zian spotted a maid pushing an old man. "Mr. Gu is back. How's my grandfather?" Gu Qingli knelt down in front of the old man. "The old man is in good condition," the servant replied. "Zian, come in." Gu Qingli dragged Mo Zian over to the old man and said, "This is my grandfather. But after my father passed away, he suffered a huge shock and lost his memory after waking up. This is..." The maid looked at Mo Zian in surprise. "My girlfriend." After speaking, Gu Qingli said to the maid, "Auntie Qin, take grandfather downstairs. Don't come up without my permission." "Okay, Mr. Gu." After speaking, the maid pushed Elder Gu out of the elevator. After the maid left, Gu Qingli went into his bedroom and changed into a set of home clothes. He then said to Mo Zian, "Have a look around. I'll go prepare dinner for you." Mo Zian nodded her head and entered her dream man's home. When she saw the trophies and medals in Gu Qingli's study room, she admired Gu Qingli even more. Afterwards, she also spotted a 3D model of a building in Gu Qingli's study room. After Gu Qingli finished preparing the ingredients, Mo Zian was nowhere to be seen. So, he followed her into the study room. When he saw Mo Zian looking at the model, he smiled. "Do you like the house here? If I remember correctly, this building is near Hyatt Regency." "Aha," Gu Qingli nodded. "If you like it, we can move there from now on, huh? I'm a shareholder of this property. I've invested in it," Gu Qingli replied. "Not only that, but I've also dabbled in the gaming and cultural industries." Mo Zian knew that Gu Qingli didn't lack money because he was wearing expensive things. But she never expected that he was this rich. He was a young man in his early 30s. He was so rich, yet he was working as a professor at a university. "My father had high hopes for me to become a teacher. He hoped that I could work in the education industry. That's why he chose to teach. Then, am I very lucky? I can't believe I have a CEO boyfriend." "Not really. I'm honored that I'm worthy of your identity as a princess," Gu Qingli laughed. "Zian, did you know? In this life, it is not easy to meet a person who likes each other and has a suitable family. So, I will treat you with all my heart and work hard to make you my wife as soon as possible." Gu Qingli hugged Mo Zian from behind and the couple kissed for a while. Afterwards, Gu Qingli let go of her. "Wait a little longer. We can come out for dinner soon, okay? I'll help you with the chores," Mo Zian requested. When a married couple works together, it won't be tiring. After speaking, Gu Qingli held onto Mo Zian's hand and led her into the kitchen. Just as Mo Zian expected, Gu Qingli was elegant in the kitchen. Even when he was chopping vegetables, she was still mesmerized by him. She couldn't help but smile like an idiot when she saw such a good man. When Gu Qingli saw her smile, he couldn't help but chuckle helplessly. This idiot was hopeless. The best food that Mo Zian had ever eaten in her life was from Mo Ting. Although she was only able to eat her father's cooking because of her mother, Mo Ting's cooking was something that no one in the world could surpass. But Gu Qingli was on a completely different level. Watching him cook was a form of extreme enjoyment. "If you're just going to watch and not eat, then I've done it for nothing," Gu Qingli said as he knocked Mo Zian on the head. "Hurry up and finish eating. I'll take you back to the dormitory. Wait, brother 4, you like investing, right? I know a thing or two." "Perfect." Mo Zian pulled out Hai Rui's most recent contracts and showed them to Gu Qingli. Help me take a look at these proposals and see if they're worth working with. These are your family's assets. How could you show them to someone else? Are you someone else? Who are you to me? Gu Qingli replied helplessly, It seems, I'm not only going to be your teacher, I'm also going to be your secretary. Chapter 1257. Gu Qingli's eyes were sharp and accurate, so he was able to give Mo Zian a lot of advice. However, Mo Zian ended up staying at Gu Qingli's home for quite some time. By the time she returned to school, the school had already been locked down. Gu Qingli had no choice but to take Mo Zian back to his home. Brother 4, why don't I go back to Hyatt Regency? Gu Qingli ignored her as he helped her find some pajamas and told her where the bathroom was. Don't worry, you can stay here for the night. I won't do anything overboard until you're willing. Mo Zian still felt that it wasn't a good idea, but this was her boyfriend's home. Why couldn't she just stay? So, she no longer resisted. After she had a bath in the bedroom, she walked out and noticed that Gu Qingli's study room was still lit. Seeing that he was still preparing for class, Mo Zian didn't want to disturb him. But, Gu Qingli noticed her. Zian? I need to get some rest. Mo Zian said with a red face. After all, she had no experience with things like this. After all, how long had it been since she confirmed her relationship with Gu Qingli? If the Mo family found out that she was spending the night at a man's home, wouldn't they scold her to death? But, Gu Qingli had no intention of letting her escape. He quickly stood up, grabbed onto Mo Zian's arm and pulled her into his embrace. Even so, Mo Zian could still see Gu Qingli's elegance and charm. He was still as mesmerizing as ever. Are you that afraid of me? Mo Zian couldn't help but take a deep breath. After she got used to Gu Qingli's scent, she finally replied, I'm just inexperienced. I don't think a girl should do it so early. In that case, when do you think it's appropriate for us to do this? Gu Qingli asked gently. I don't know. You've already known me for 4 years, yet you don't want me to see you more and get to know you better? Gu Qingli asked. After hearing this, Mo Zian was speechless. Her heart had been completely conquered by Gu Qingli. Help me prepare for class for a while. After that, I'll let you sleep. Mo Zian buried her head in Gu Qingli's arms and nodded her head. Afterwards, she sat down with him on the sofa, leaned her head against his shoulder and dozed off. When Gu Qingli saw this, he smiled helplessly and gently touched the bridge of Mo Zian's nose. He then carried her into the bedroom and tucked her in before turning off the lights and leaving. Inside the darkness, Mo Zian opened her eyes and closed them again in relief. After all, since Gu Qingli had made a promise, he would keep it. But Mo Zian was afraid that people would say she was too casual if she stayed overnight at her boyfriend's home so easily. The next morning, Mo Zian's roommate couldn't help but ask, Where did you go yesterday? He didn't return to the dormitory, nor did he change his clothes. I went to a friend's place last night, Mo Zian explained guiltily. Did she go to her boyfriend's house? We all understand. But don't you like Professor Gu anymore? You've had a crush on him for 4 years. The man on the stage was teaching seriously, but the people in the audience were absent-minded. Because of this, Gu Qingli caught hold of Mo Zian and her roommate. Pay attention in class. Do you want to fail a subject? I'm sorry, Mo Zian immediately apologized to Gu Qingli. I'm sorry, Professor Gu. Her roommate also apologized to Gu Qingli. But, just as Gu Qingli turned to leave, her roommate whispered to Mo Zian, Professor Gu may be gentle, but he's also very fierce. Stop it. Mo Zian immediately tugged on her roommate's shirt. That's enough. You need to explain yourself when you get home. Mo Zian cleared her throat and sent Mo Zian a text, You're being punished for not paying attention in class. It's all your fault. My roommate kept asking me where I went last night. You can tell her honestly that you spent the night at your boyfriend's place. Professor Gu, it's still class time. After Mo Zian finished typing, she put down her phone. At this time, Gu Qingli looked in Mo Zian's direction and gave her a gentle smile. After class in the morning, Mo Zian returned to her dormitory to wash up and get changed. But, to her surprise, her roommate actually clung to her and asked, Is it the man whose family is rich enough to drive a Maybach? Did you agree? Then, the one whose family is full of lawyers. No, Emozian shook her head. I went to my sister-in-law's place last night to see Xingzhe. Alright, your answer is really boring. Emozian did not want anyone to know about her relationship with Gu Qingli at the moment because she didn't want people to judge him. Now, it was just right. However, after not seeing her daughter for a few days, Tongning naturally missed her. So, she gave Emozian a phone call and asked her to come home for dinner. Although Gu Qingli's invitation was important, he still needed to see his mother first. So, by the time Gu Qingli gave her a phone call that evening, she had already returned to Hyatt Regency. Brother 4, you can have dinner by yourself tonight. I'm going home. What a pity. I was going to take you out for a candlelit dinner. As soon as she heard the words candlelit dinner, Emozian's eyes lit up. In that case, wait for me. Don't worry, even 10 p.m. is fine. Spend some time with your mother, Gu Qingli said thoughtfully. At that moment, Emozian no longer wanted to stay at home. Her heart had already flown far away. Seeing that her daughter was distracted after receiving the phone call, Tongning knew that she couldn't keep her daughter any longer, so she asked, when will you bring her home for us to see? There will be opportunities in the future. Is it the man you've had a crush on for a few years? Tongning asked. Yes, Emozian nodded. Okay, you can go now. Tongning did not stop Emozian from leaving. After all, her daughter was all grown up and had her own thoughts. Plus, she had already liked this man for 4 years, so she wasn't going to give up so easily. But after Emozian left, Tongning said to her husband, a daughter can't be compared to a son, so I need to test my son-in-law. Okay, I'll do as you say, Emoting replied. After all, it wasn't going to be easy for him to take his daughter away from him. After all, how could the daughter of the Mo family marry someone of a lower status? Meanwhile, Emozian had no idea what her parents were thinking as she hurried over to the meeting location. When Gu Qingli saw her sweaty face, his heart ached. Didn't I tell you not to rush? I didn't want you to wait for too long. I don't care how long it takes to wait for my girlfriend. Gu Qingli pulled out a napkin and gently wiped away the sweat on Emozian's forehead. He then pulled out a chair for her like a gentleman. Emozian sat down and said to Gu Qingli, my mother asked me when I can bring you home to see her. Chapter 1258. In that case, when do you plan to introduce me to uncle and auntie? Gu Qingli threw the question back at her. Emozian's face turned red as she didn't know how to respond. Although she had liked Gu Qingli for 4 years, she felt like everything had happened too quickly and she wasn't prepared for it yet. Gu Qingli seemed to have seen through her as he let out a gentle laugh and said, forget it, I won't make things difficult for you. When the time is right, I'll naturally meet uncle and auntie. Are you trying to bully me? Emozian couldn't help but glare at Gu Qingli. It seems I don't understand you well enough. Do you regret it? Emozian shook her head. My brother 4 is very charming. After the candlelit dinner, the couple danced in the dining room. To the tune of the music, they moved in sync. Emozian's heart fluttered, especially when she stood next to Gu Qingli and felt his warmth. Emozian felt dizzy and her body felt like it was floating in the clouds. This was the Gu Qingli that she liked, the elegant and charming Gu Qingli. After dinner, the couple held hands and walked home. But on the way back to her dormitory, Gu Qingli suddenly said, I actually have a lot of rooms at my place. What do you think? You do have a lot of rooms and the decor is warm. I like it. Emozian completely missed the hidden meaning in Gu Qingli's words. What I mean is, it's spacious even if another person lives there. What do you think? Are there any guests coming to your place? After hearing this, Gu Qingli couldn't help but laugh. In fact, he laughed for quite some time. I'm not sure if the guests will be going. But, as the owner, when will you be able to move in? Emozian finally realized what Gu Qingli was trying to say. Brother 4, can you not beat around the bush? After laughing, Gu Qingli patted Emozian on the head. I don't think I beat around the bush. You're the one that's too stupid. Are you serious? Okay, take some time to think about it. Gu Qingli nodded and placed a kiss on Emozian's forehead. Good night. Emozian couldn't think straight. especially after returning to the dormitory. As she lay in bed, her mind kept replaying Gu Qingli's words. When would she, the owner of the house, be able to move in? She wanted to, but she felt that it was not that step yet. Because of this, Mo Zian alerted her roommates. Zian, even if you can't sleep, you don't have to take revenge on society, do you? Her roommate had dark circles under her eyes and was very resentful towards her. Let me ask you, how long do you think it's appropriate for a couple to live together? It's so late at night. Are you crazy? His roommate muttered. At first, Mo Zian thought they would complain for a bit, roll over, and go back to sleep. But, to her surprise, a few minutes later, someone replied, "Love doesn't really have a time limit. Did you think that the longer time passes, the deeper the relationship becomes?" Actually, it's all lies. That's why I think that once the relationship is in place, you can live together. I think that as long as two people share the same values, it's only natural for them to live together, right? Do you really want your parents to set off firecrackers to celebrate? That's the only way you can feel it, another roommate replied. I think the most important thing is whether you trust your partner or not. Any relationship is filled with difficulties. It all depends on how determined you are. If you're overly cautious and always consider what other people and your family think, then your partner will eventually leave you. After hearing their responses, Mo Zian realized that the last one was the one that she liked the most. Indeed, every time Gu Qingli mentioned that he was making progress, the first thing she considered was whether her parents would think that she was being too casual. She actually liked and desired Gu Qingli a lot. So, why couldn't she just follow her heart and honestly make a decision? Thank you. It's the middle of the night. Stop messing around and go to sleep. After receiving their response, Mo Zian felt a lot more at ease and quickly fell asleep. The next morning, the first thing she did when she woke up was pull out her phone and send Gu Qingli a text. "I think I can give it a try." Gu Qingli didn't quite understand what she meant. "What I mean is, I'm willing to try being the other host in your home. So, find a nice sunny day and pack your luggage. I'll come pick you up." After Mo Zian saw this, she smiled sweetly. However, that day, another sensational incident happened at the school. One of the 4 most popular actresses of the current generation, an actress with a lot of fame, actually chose to continue her education at the school. As a result, the school was surrounded by all sorts of media outlets early in the morning. This was the power of the media. It didn't take long before Mo Zian arrived at the classroom. However, there was a familiar yet unfamiliar face in the classroom. She had a hot body and a pretty face. Normally, they would only see her on TV, but today, they would see her in person. Mo Zian thought to herself, "She's just an artist from Hairue." But the other students in the class immediately gathered around to watch. Mo Zian simply wanted to attend Gu Qingli's class in peace. But it was obvious that this person's arrival was bound to cause a commotion. Even after class, the entrance to the classroom was still noisy. Gu Qingli naturally furrowed his brows. Mo Zian knew that this was a sign that he was about to get angry, even if he didn't show it on his face. "I'm aware that a very famous student has joined our class, but I hope that you can protect the public environment and try not to disturb others. Today's class will be self-study." Because there were too many distractions, Gu Qingli couldn't attend class at all. The woman lifted her head and glanced at Gu Qingli with an unreadable expression before she lowered her head again. It was hard to tell what she was thinking. This woman's name was Ji Mei. Seeing that Gu Qingli rarely got angry, Mo Zian sent him a text, "You'll get old if you get angry. Focus on your self-study. I'll deal with you after class." Mo Zian stuck out her tongue at Gu Qingli and Gu Qingli looked at her dotingly. Ji Mei noticed all of this. As soon as the bell rang, Ji Mei raised her hand and said to Gu Qingli, "Professor Gu, I have a few questions to discuss with you." "Let's talk here," Gu Qingli said as he leaned against the lectern. "But it's not very convenient. You don't want me to attend class in such a large crowd every time, do you?" "That's your problem, not mine." Gu Qingli refused to back down. Chapter 1259. "Professor Gu, you're so insensitive," Ji Mei said helplessly. "You're a student and I'm a teacher. Please mind your status and mind your words. After speaking, Gu Qingli put away his textbook and said to his classmates, "Class dismissed." For some reason, Mo Zian noticed from Gu Qingli's reaction that he was slightly strict towards Ji Mei. It was almost like he was wary of her. Afterwards, Ji Mei went to Gu Qingli's office to look for him, but apparently, she did not see him. That afternoon, Mo Zian received a phone call from Gu Qingli. He wanted to pick her up for dinner, so Mo Zian took the opportunity to ask, "I feel like you're particularly strict towards Ji Mei. Is she an old acquaintance?" A look of surprise flashed across Gu Qingli's eyes. Then he smiled. "So, you're already able to sense the subtle changes in my emotions." "I've been observing him for 4 years, Mo Zian said unhappily. Gu Qingli chuckled and placed a kiss on Mo Zian's forehead before he replied, "If you were Ji Mei, would you spend so much time studying something that has nothing to do with you?" Mo Zian shook her head. "I'm too busy trying to make money right now. I don't have the time." "Then isn't that all?" "Silly, I'm afraid that Ji Mei's appearance at school was sent by auntie and uncle to test her." "Huh?" Mo Zian was stunned. "What's there to be confused about? Auntie and uncle are worried about their daughter, so they'll test their son-in-law." "This is what I expected." Gu Qingli laughed as he gestured for Mo Zian to sit on his lap. Mo Zian's face flushed red as she nodded her head. "Your analysis makes sense. If it's really a test from my parents, you need to handle it well." "In that case, were you satisfied with my performance today? Do you really think that Ji Mei isn't pretty?" Mo Zian asked. "A lot of men are completely smitten by her. For me, there's only one you in the world. That's perfect. Everything else isn't what I care about." With these words from Gu Qingli, Mo Zian made up her mind. "I'm going to move tonight. After all, I don't have a lot of things in my dormitory." "Have you thought it through?" "I can't be clearer." "I trust you," Mo Zian replied as she wrapped her arms around Gu Qingli's neck. No matter what her parents thought, this was the man she had loved for 4 years. It was a long time. Plus, she wasn't afraid of getting hurt. So, she didn't think she should consult anyone's opinion. Didn't mommy always say that? No matter what decision you make, whether it's right or wrong, as long as you make a choice, you must have the courage to bear the consequences. Since that was the case, what was there for her to hesitate about? Didn't mom and dad also get married in a flash marriage and still love each other? With this thought, Mo Zian made up her mind. So, after dinner, Mo Zian returned to her dormitory to pack her luggage. His roommate was speechless. "What's wrong with you now?" "I'm going home," Mo Zian replied. "Whatever, you've been a little paranoid lately." Mo Zian's roommate shook her head and looked at Mo Zian helplessly. Mo Zian left a small gift for her roommate and left with her luggage. At this time, Gu Qingli's car was waiting downstairs. He drove Mo Zian back to his apartment and carried her luggage into his bedroom. "Go, put your things in the closet. I've already cleared out half of the space for you." "But, brother four, I don't want to move at all. Packing is too tiring." As soon as Gu Qingli heard this, he patted the space next to him and said, "In that case, I'll hug you to sleep for a bit. Leave your things here, I'll pack them." Mo Zian was satisfied. Gu Qingli's doting made her feel blessed. Soon, Mo Zian fell into a deep sleep. Gu Qingli shook his head and lifted her in his arms helplessly. He then placed her on the bed in the bedroom. After preparing for class, he helped her pack her clothes and headed into the bedroom to wash up. After Mo Zian woke up, Gu Qingli was still in the bathroom. Mo Zian's heart was racing. She had a feeling that something was going to happen on a night like this. But, after Gu Qingli finished his shower, he lay down beside her tiredly and did not do anything inappropriate. He simply placed his arm around her waist and helped her tuck in. Mo Zian once wanted to find a man like Mo Ting, a man who was decisive and ruthless, just so he could make his beloved wife happy. But, after meeting Gu Qingli, Mo Zian began to imagine that someone as elegant as Gu Qingli must have lived a life of art. Just as she expected, Gu Qingli's life was indeed exquisite and he was truly gentle. At times, Mo Zian couldn't help but wonder, was she too lucky? Or was Gu Qingli hiding it even better? If all of this was true, Then God had bestowed such a good man to her. Should she shed tears of gratitude? Gu Qingli's elegance came from deep within his bones. He completely inherited his temperament from his father. Plus, did this mean that the two of them were officially living together? Mo Zian was still a little confused, but when she looked at the wardrobe with their clothes and the dresser with her makeup, she finally realized that everything was real. There was no doubt this was real. The next day, Mo Zian woke up in bed to find that the space next to her was empty. By the time she walked downstairs in her pajamas, Gu Qingli had already tidied up the room and prepared breakfast. Come and eat. I'm going to go to school first. Don't forget, you have class in the second period. Okay, Mo Zian nodded. At this time, Gu Qingli picked up his briefcase and asked, "Have you eaten?" "Silly, look at the time," Gu Qingli said before he hurried out of the house. He simply wanted to see what time Mo Zian would wake up. But who would have thought the silly girl was actually a good sleeper? Mo Zian's face flushed red. After eating, she washed up in her room and headed out. However, things were different from yesterday. Although Ji Mei attended class today, she had already gotten rid of all the followers from the day before. But the expression on her face in class was obviously provoking Gu Qingli. "You said that I'm a hindrance to everyone, so shouldn't you praise me for solving the problem?" But Gu Qingli's gaze was still cold. Not hindrance to others was the most basic of morals. So what was there to praise? So Ji Mei couldn't take it anymore, so she stood up and asked Gu Qingli, "Professor Gu, do you have something against me?" "I don't have anything against you. Please don't force yourself. That's all, class is over." Gu Qingli's merciless actions made Ji Mei lose face. If this was an ugly lecture, he would have been scolded to death. But this was Gu Qingli, the elegant Gu Qingli that was like a prince from a painting. No matter what he did, he should be forgiven. Chapter 1260. Like this, the news of the superstar being rejected by Gu Qingli spread like wildfire. Gu Qingli had been a professor for many years, but he had never said anything like this to anyone, apart from Ji Mei. But rumors of the professor and the superstar quickly spread like wildfire. "I feel like there's something going on between Professor Gu and Ji Mei. Otherwise, why would a superstar like her come to our school to further her studies?" "I think so too. No matter how I look at it, it looks like they're in a love-hate relationship. Ji Mei must be interested in Professor Gu, but Professor Gu is cold towards her. Professor Gu is the best resource at our school. It's not surprising that Ji Mei is interested in him. Plus, hasn't Professor Gu appeared on TV for the school's promotion?" Along the way, Mo Zian and her roommates heard all sorts of discussions. They completely linked Gu Qingli and Ji Mei together and imagined a love-hate relationship. "Zian, don't tell me that your Professor Gu has actually been stolen by that female celebrity?" Mo Zian smiled and shook her head. "How could Professor Gu be stolen that easily?" "That's hard to say. Professor Gu has always announced that he's married and is polite to everyone. But Ji Mei is the only exception. How come all I see is rejection?" Mo Zian asked. "That's the strange part. When has Professor Gu ever been so fierce to someone? He's obviously only treating his own people." These people's guesses were getting more and more ridiculous. Mo Zian couldn't be bothered with them as she left the classroom. But during lunch, she told Gu Qingli what her roommates were thinking. "Everyone thinks that your attitude towards Ji Mei is too special. That means there's something ambiguous going on." Seriously? Gu Qingli didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "In that case, what should I do to prove that I hate the superstar? I don't care what other people think. I trust you," Mo Zian said. "Besides, you're from Hairue, so I don't think I have the right to blame you. I'm glad you understand." But from Gu Qingli's perspective, he felt it was necessary to reassure Mo Zian's roommates, even though he did not tell Mo Zian about this. After all, Mo Zian would think that he was taking a huge risk and that he might lose his reputation and his job. After all, although a teacher-student relationship didn't seem like much at first glance, if one looked closely, it would still mess up the seniority. But Gu Qingli didn't care. He simply wanted Mo Zian to feel at ease. At least, the people around her weren't bad-mouthing him, but praising him. However, Emozian never had the chance to express her thoughts. That was, until one day, when Emozian told Gu Qingli that she would be returning home late because she was having dinner with a girl from her dorm. Gu Qingli nodded and told her to be careful. He also asked where they were having dinner and that he could pick her up later. As she was afraid of being exposed, Emozian only gave Gu Qingli her address. She didn't need Gu Qingli to drive her there, she could just call a cab home herself. Gu Qingli had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time, so how could he let it go so easily? So, when he saw the address that Emozian sent him, he couldn't help but smile. Her roommates were happily having a meal in the exquisitely decorated steakhouse while the other three attacked Emozian together. How long has it been since you last ate with us? What do you think? Have you been in a relationship lately? Where's your favorite Professor Gu? Your guesses are ridiculous, Emozian quickly surrendered. Let's eat our steak. Hurry and eat your steak. It won't taste good when it's cold. Speaking of Professor Gu, I also want to talk about Ji Mei. Is there something going on between the two of them? Emozian rolled her eyes helplessly. She didn't want to waste her breath on these people. Can't you guys talk about something else? Oh, it seems like you still care about Professor Gu. Why are you so protective of him? The girls continued to joke around like they were back in university. Soon, they chatted until late into the night. Afterwards, they decided to call a cab and leave. Just as Emozian pulled out her phone, she heard a magnetic voice call out to her, Zian. Emozian turned around to find Gu Qingli standing behind them with her jacket in his hand. Oh God, Professor Gu! The three roommates let out different sighs, especially when they saw Emozian's jacket in Gu Qingli's hand. Didn't I tell you not to come? Did you think I'd let you go home on your own? Gu Qingli draped the jacket over Emozian's shoulders and wrapped his arm around her shoulders. I don't think I need to introduce myself, do I? No need, the three roommates waved their hands. I'll leave Zian in your care. Gu Qingli showed off his scholarly side and fooled his roommates. Of course. Since that's the case, I'll take her home now. Do you want me to give you a lift? No need. The roommates shook their heads. They still needed time to gossip. If they didn't talk about such explosive news late into the night, they would be letting the person in question down. Emozian looked at them helplessly. In the end, Gu Qingli led her to his car. I suddenly realized that you're as cunning as a fox. If I'm not like a fox, how am I supposed to earn money to support my family? Gu Qingli laughed. How can you laugh? If this gets out, do you still want to be a professor? Of course I'm going to be a beast. Don't you trust your roommates? Gu Qingli was 100% sure that Emozian's roommates would secretly feel good about it, but they would never spread it around. Of course I trust you. Then isn't that all? Gu Qingli's words made sense, but Emozian still felt like something wasn't quite right. But, because she was being tricked by this man, she couldn't react in time. I don't think I'm a match for you. You're too good at tricking people. Zian, you've already watched me for 4 years. Haven't you seen my cunning side? Gu Qingli smiled as he stopped the car. He then lifted Emozian's chin and gently kissed her. For your sake, I don't mind losing a few things. I simply don't want you to always hear about my relationship with other people from your roommates. I want them to know that I'm yours and that I'm part of the Mo family. After hearing Gu Qingli's sweet words, Emozian was completely helpless. This man was too good at flirting. His methods were brilliant and left no traces behind. I want to find a time to tell my mommy that we're living together. Is this considered living together? We're simply living under the same roof. Gu Qingli emphasized. Please tell mother-in-law that I'm a well-behaved person. Chapter 1261. Ever since her roommates found out about Emozian and Gu Qingli's relationship, they would tease her every now and then. You're so mean. Since you've already gotten Professor Gu, why didn't you tell us? That's right. You even made us badmouth Professor Gu. We haven't been together for a long time, so I didn't think it was the right time, Emozian explained. Fine, it's my fault. I'll apologize to you and treat you to a big meal afterwards. Is that okay? That's more like it, one of her roommates humphed. But, Zian, what about Ji-mei? She obviously has a crush on the professor too. Mo Zian wasn't worried as she replied, Brother 4 isn't that kind of person. Brother 4, are you bullying a single dog? Mo Zian smiled and ignored them. As long as she trusted Gu Qingli, that was enough. But the latest news was that Ji Mei had begun clinging onto Gu Qingli. Whenever he appeared, Ji Mei would approach him. It seemed she was obsessed with creating an image of herself as a madman. So, the news was filled with hot topics like Ji Mei falling in love with the professor and Ji Mei's pure love. This was obviously the second stage of her test. Gu Qingli was well aware of this. After all, for many men, a superstar like Ji Mei was hard to get rid of. She was beautiful and capable. She was the ideal couple that many men dreamed of. If a man wasn't loyal, it was easy for him to be tempted by her. Even the people around Gu Qingli questioned him. Ji Mei is obviously here because of you. How could you not agree to it? She's such a beautiful woman with such curves. Are you still not satisfied? Ji Mei even bought a cake for the entire office because of you. She's really good at socializing. You should just agree. Every time Gu Qingli heard someone say something like this, he would say, teachers and students aren't allowed to fall in love. To make everyone shut their mouths. After all, even 10 Ji Meis couldn't compare to one Mo Zian. So, he wasn't going to make an exception so easily. You're so hard to talk to. Gu Qingli chuckled as he continued to talk. After returning home, he acted like an old man and tried to correct Mo Zian's bad habits. For example, lying in bed and looking at her phone at night. Don't I look better than a phone? Gu Qingli asked. Brother 4, is Ji Mei really clinging to you? Mo Zian put down her phone as she felt a strong sense of danger. Gu Qingli couldn't help but laugh. After laughing, he pulled Mo Zian into his embrace. I only have you in my heart. Even if there were 10 Ji Meis, it wouldn't matter. But, you can't always be pestered by her like this. Are you anxious? Gu Qingli pinched Mo Zian's cheek and nodded. Let Brother 4 think of something. Mo Zian lay on top of Gu Qingli's body and smelled the fresh scent of the forest. She was intoxicated by the pleasant smell, so she quickly closed her eyes and fell asleep. But Gu Qingli suffered. He had the woman he loved in his arms, but he couldn't do anything to her. He didn't even want to wake her up. Sigh, you're such a troublesome little idiot. Even though he said this, Gu Qingli still pulled out the ring that he had prepared and put it on Mo Zian while she was asleep. Then he put on the man's ring. So, the next day, news of Professor Gu's marriage once again spread throughout the school. To avoid arousing suspicion, he specifically put on a ring on his finger. He did this to let everyone know that he was married. I never thought that Professor Gu was actually married. It seems Ji Mei has no chance. I agree. Professor Gu must really like his wife. That's why he rejected someone like Ji Mei. Inside the school, the teachers and students were all discussing this matter. At this time, Gu Qingli was in his office saying some harsh words to his colleagues. Everyone from now on, please don't eat anything that Ji Mei sends you. I have a feast waiting for you because I am indeed married. Okay, old Gu, I thought you were joking. When are you going to bring sister-in-law over to meet her? His colleague asked. You'll get your chance very soon. That way, the entire school would know that Gu Qingli was married and that he was wearing a wedding ring. If Ji Mei continued to pester him, the news would no longer appear as a pure campus love story. Instead, she would appear as a third party that ruined someone's marriage. Ji Mei knew the severity of the situation, so she had no choice but to avoid it and let Gu Qingli off the hook for now. Mo Zian was the most confused. When she woke up in the morning, Gu Qingli was nowhere to be seen. Instead, he was wearing a golden ring. What did this mean? Was he proposing? Getting engaged? Getting married? This man didn't even say a word before he put the ring on her finger. Afterwards, Mo Zian went to class. As soon as she heard that Gu Qingli was wearing a ring to class, she almost spat out a mouthful of water. Afterwards, she immediately removed the ring on her finger. It turned out this man was trying to avoid Ji Mei. But she couldn't deny that she was overjoyed. especially when the two ran into each other in the cafeteria during lunch. When Mo Zian saw the ring on Gu Qingli's finger and realized it was a pair with hers, she was even happier. "Where's the ring?" Gu Qingli asked. "It's in my pocket," Mo Zian said as she patted her pocket. "Brother 4, everyone now knows that you're married." Gu Qingli gulped, but he did not say a word. He simply continued to eat elegantly until he returned home after class that night. Then he pressed Mo Zian against the wall and asked, "Since the school has already spread news of my marriage, when are you going to help me pass it off as the real deal?" "Who proposes like this?" Mo Zian grumbled unhappily. "Idiot." Gu Qingli patted Mo Zian on the head and let go of her. "Of course, I have to personally ask my in-laws to hand you over to me in front of them. That's the only way to get it over with." "Really?" Gu Qingli nodded his head. "Go have a shower and go to bed. I'll go have a shower then." Over the past few days, Gu Qingli deliberately stayed in the study room while Mo Zian had her shower because he was afraid he wouldn't be able to control himself. But the little brat was obviously not wary of him at all. She didn't even lock the bathroom door from the inside when she showered. As the bathroom was made of glass, even though it wasn't transparent, Mo Zian's figure was still very alluring under the light. So Gu Qingli felt like he had lost control tonight, especially when he saw Mo Zian step out of the bathroom. Her fair legs and bare ankles. Chapter 1262. What's wrong? You're really not wary of me at all, Gu Qingli said as he lifted Mo Zian in his arms. But I want to go back on my word tonight. Mo Zian froze. She suddenly felt like a lamb that was about to be delivered to a wolf as she stuttered, "Brother 4, I'm inexperienced." "Me neither," Gu Qingli replied naturally. "In the past, I've never had a woman," Gu Qingli replied honestly, "because no one has ever made my heart race and my mind go muddled. You're the only one that's been able to do it." "Mo Zian, you're amazing." Mo Zian's face slowly turned red as she suggested, "Why don't you go have a shower? Let's go together." After speaking, Gu Qingli carried Mo Zian back into the bathroom and placed her on the sink. Afterwards, he hooked his long fingers under Mo Zian's chin and gently kissed her. Mo Zian was nervous and scared, so she wrapped her arms around Gu Qingli's neck. But at the same time, it felt good and exciting. Neither of them had experienced the love between a man and a woman before. Because of this, the gentleness at first became so intense. Mo Zian was originally only wearing a bathrobe, but after Gu Qingli tugged at her, a large portion of her skin was revealed and it made one's imagination run wild. Afterwards, Gu Qingli removed his suit jacket, revealing his muscular chest and abs. Mo Zian's face turned even redder. "Zian, look at me." Gu Qingli held Mo Zian's face in his hands and looked into her misty eyes. "I want you. Right now, right now." Mo Zian couldn't reject him, so she could only respond instinctively. Her response was shaky, but it was filled with passion. Soon, the couple were completely naked, with the shower head on. The couple's kiss became more intense as their bodies reacted more and more instinctively. At that moment, Mo Zian's brain couldn't think straight. In fact, she didn't even consider that she needed to be on a comfortable bed. Gu Qingli was knowledgeable. Even though it was his first time, he still knew how to reduce a woman's pain. So, he was extremely considerate of the little idiot's feelings. The light in the bathroom looked hazy in the bedroom, but the two people in the bathroom drew an embarrassing shape on the bathroom glass. A magnetic voice, a low moan of relief. By the time Mo Zian woke up, she was already lying on a comfortable bed. The discomfort in her body made her curl up into a ball and not dare to move. Gu Qingli smiled lovingly and pulled Mo Zian into his arms. "This is what you call living together. Fourth brother, you're so bad." "Only you." Gu Qingli kissed her forehead and coaxed her to rest. After tasting the secret fruit, Mo Zian really wanted to taste it again. But Mo Zian's body wasn't ready yet, so he didn't force it. The couple fell asleep in each other's arms. The next morning, Mo Zian opened her eyes. She blushed when she saw Gu Qingli's muscular chest. "Good morning, fourth brother." "Little idiot." Gu Qingli stood up and revealed his perfect figure. Mo Zian immediately covered her eyes. Was this man starting to act so recklessly in front of her? You've already seen it. Is there a need to hide it? Gu Qingli chuckled. I'm not used to it. Mo Zian turned around. Your class is in the 3rd period. Get some more sleep, Gu Qingli instructed. I'll prepare breakfast for you. When you're ready, get up and eat it. Okay, hurry and leave. Seeing how eager Mo Zian was to chase him away, Gu Qingli walked over to her and asked, Are you regretting it? Mo Zian shook her head. I'm just not used to it yet. Even if you regret it, it's too late, silly girl. After speaking, Gu Qingli placed a kiss on Mo Zian's forehead. But this kiss was out of control. Gu Qingli was completely addicted to it. So, in the end, Professor Gu ended up taking sick leave for the first time in his career. Meanwhile, Mo Zian did not attend any other classes. As soon as her roommates saw this, they knew that something must have happened between the couple. Don't tell me it's too intense in bed and you can't get out of bed? I think so too. The couple spent the entire day in bed. Of course, they didn't linger around each other, they simply rested. Mo Zian felt like she was surrounded by happiness. She had no idea that her husband was sick at home at this time. At the time of Tang Ning's phone call, Gu Qingli and Mo Zian were having dinner. The couple were wearing matching rings and drinking wine. It was obvious they were a newlywed couple. But as soon as Tang Ning mentioned that Mo Ting was sick, she immediately stood up in a hurry. Your father has caught a cold. It's been a few days. Are you going to come home too? Have you regained your courage? Mommy, I'll be home soon, Mo Zian said anxiously. It's good that you know how to come home. Seeing her anxious expression, Gu Qingli immediately helped her with her clothes and packed her belongings. Are you going home? My father is sick. I need to go home to see what's wrong. I'll take you home, Gu Qingli offered. It'll be faster that way. Okay, Mo Zian nodded. She had no idea that this was the night that Gu Qingli would be meeting with his parents-in-law. The couple drove into Hyatt Regency. But, to their surprise, Tang Ning was waiting at the entrance. Mo Zian felt quite awkward, so she had no choice but to ask Gu Qingli to get out of the car and see her mother. Gu Qingli maintained his usual elegance. After getting out of the car, he politely extended his hand. Hello, Auntie. I've heard a lot about you, Tang Ning smiled. Why don't you go in first? I was originally supposed to visit you and Uncle, but something happened today, so I didn't have time to prepare. I'm a little sorry. It's fine. Tang Ning displayed the authority of an elder. From the looks of it, she was planning to make things difficult for Gu Qingli. Zian, go see your father first. Mo Zian knew that Tang Ning was purposely sending her away. But there was nothing she could do about it. I'll go first then, Mommy. I know, I won't bully your precious child, Tang Ning said helplessly. As the saying went, a married daughter was like spilled water. This was definitely true. Then she looked at Gu Qingli. He was still as elegant and calm as ever without a trace of panic. From the looks of it, he wasn't simple at all. Mr. Gu, please have a seat, Tang Ning said as they entered the living room. I heard that you are my daughter's professor. Yes, Annie. In that case, what do you think about teacher-student relationships? Tang Ning asked. As soon as Gu Qingli heard this, he laughed without a trace of panic. A good teacher and a helpful friend. It's inevitable for feelings to develop between teachers and students of similar ages. But restraint is the only way to show one's humanity. If there's someone that can't be restrained, then even if it means losing everything, I wouldn't want to miss out on this precious person. After hearing Gu Qingli's words, Tang Ning's gaze softened a little. He was indeed a broad-minded and cultured man. Chapter 1263. In that case, Professor Gu, do you know anything about my husband? Tang Ning continued to ask. Who in Beijing doesn't know? Who doesn't know? Gu Qingli replied naturally. President Mo has been in the business world for so many years and has always been invincible. In that case, don't you think that in terms of temperament, you and my husband are quite similar? I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm worried that Xian is looking for her father's shadow in you and that she doesn't feel love for you. After hearing Tongning's words, Gu Qingli lowered his head and thought for a few seconds. He then lifted his head and replied, Auntie, I feel that President Mo and I are completely different people. Plus, I'm sure Xian can tell us apart. Most importantly, a relationship is between two people. If I can't tell that she truly likes me, then I wouldn't continue this relationship. Tongning carefully observed Gu Qingli. From this young man, she could tell that he was serious, strict, calm, and had the ability to remain calm in the face of danger. This was a man with charisma. In that case, what are your plans from now on? As you know, Xian is now the successor of Hai Rui. From now on, she will definitely be very busy. Auntie, you don't have to worry about this. Apart from teaching, I also have various investments. So, I can manage her time well. Don't worry. This man's answers were flawless. Tongning couldn't think of a reason to reject him, nor could she think of a way to make things difficult for her son-in-law. So, she surrendered. You need to understand that as a mother, if I find out that my daughter has a crush on someone and hasn't responded to her for over 4 years, I would be very worried and sad. I'm sorry. Auntie, it was my mistake. I missed Xian's letter, so I found out too late. But I will definitely make it up to her. The couple chatted in the living room for quite some time. A moment later, Mo Xian walked out of her bedroom and approached them. What bad things have you been saying behind my back? You've only gotten past me today, but you haven't gotten past her father. Tongning said as she stood up. I understand, Auntie. Plus, her father has been ill for the past few days, so there is no one to take charge of Hai Rui. She can't be willful and needs to return to work. Okay, I'll make sure to arrange her homework and work schedule. Gu Qingli naturally took on the heavy responsibility. Since that's the case, do as you please. I'm going in to take care of your father. After speaking, Tongning headed straight for her bedroom. As for Mo Xian, she could do whatever she wanted. As long as she didn't forget that she had to work at Hai Rui the next day. What did my mommy tell you? After Tongning left, Mo Xian immediately asked Gu Qingli, did my mother make things difficult for you? Isn't it normal for a mother-in-law to make things difficult for her son-in-law? Gu Qingli asked. He then smiled comfortingly. Auntie is actually very understanding. Don't be afraid. That's more like it. Mo Xian was satisfied as she left Hyatt Regency with Gu Qingli. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, Mo Ting was lying on the bed with a cold expression on his face. He was still the iron-blooded Zhou, but his body was no longer the same as before. Has Xian left? I just had a chat with Professor Gu. He is a successful young man, no wonder our daughter likes him. But I still need you as a father to agree. Otherwise, I won't be able to rest easy. Mo Ting brushed his wife's hair behind her ear and looked at Tongning. I like the person that you like. Since that's the case, you should get married as soon as possible so we don't have to worry anymore. How can I do that? After all, this is about our daughter's marriage. Mo Ting wrapped his arms around his wife with a strong sense of love. It seemed, no matter how much time passed, he would always be able to dote on his precious little darling. For me, you are the most important thing in my life. Although Mo Ting had already announced that Mo Xian would be taking over Hai Rui, she still hadn't made an appearance as the CEO, so the staff at Hai Rui didn't really respect her. But, now that Mo Ting was sick, it was obvious that he wanted to throw this burden onto Mo Xian so that she couldn't avoid it anymore. Although Mo Xian was a little flustered, she did not push away her responsibility. After all, she had already achieved her main goal of staying at the university. So, whether she went to school or not no longer mattered. Brother 4, I'm going to Hai Rui tomorrow. You need to help me. Since President Mo has given you such a heavy responsibility, it means that you're not lacking in capabilities. Plus, you know what you're doing with the proposals that you previously asked me to look at. You're simply lazy, Gu Qingli scolded. It's such a shame that I won't be able to walk around the university freely from now on. I was the reason why you stayed at the university. Now that you've achieved your goal, why waste more time? Gu Qingli asked as he sat on the edge of the bed. Mo Xian smiled and nodded her head. That's true. So, the next day, Mo Zian had no choice but to put on a white suit and head to work at Hairui. Meanwhile, Gu Qingli returned to school as usual. However, Mo Zian's roommates didn't see Mo Zian for a few days, so they were curious. Could it be that Gu Qingli was acting as a groom every night and causing her to be bedridden? In the end, the roommates couldn't help but ask Gu Qingli after class, "Professor Gu, what's wrong with Zian? Why isn't she coming to class?" "I'm afraid she won't be coming to class for a while. She's gone back to work, but she didn't tell us that she found a job." Gu Qingli smiled meaningfully. It seemed Mo Zian was keeping a low profile at the university and didn't let anyone know that she was the new CEO of Hairui. "I'll let her tell you all about it later." "She's being so mysterious?" The roommates looked at each other, but they had no way of getting any more information out of Gu Qingli. All they could do was wait for Mo Zian to return to school before they interrogated her. Meanwhile, how was the new CEO of Hairui doing? She didn't have the cold and authoritative aura of Mo Ting at all. Instead, she sat in her seat on the board of directors, looking extremely young. But during the meeting, she listened attentively to the report even though she looked more like an intern than the new CEO. After the relevant departments finished explaining the situation, Mo Zian finally said, "PR department, although this is a report, it's not a complete lack of information. Last month, the 2 PR events that your department was responsible for didn't seem to be very successful. Can you briefly explain the situation?" Chapter 1264. The atmosphere in the meeting room suddenly became tense. All the departments thought that Mo Zian would be easy to trick, so they avoided the important points during the presentation. But who would have thought Mo Zian would notice something was off? Singer Qin Jian had an affair. Because your PR department missed the perfect opportunity to expose him, the media blew it up and Qin Jian is still hiding overseas. This could have been avoided. As for the actress Li Jia, it was revealed that she worked in a nightclub before she debuted. Not only did the PR department fail to suppress the matter, the media even attacked them. This is the greatest humiliation in the history of Hairui's PR. What's wrong? My father may be sick, but I'm wide awake. The manager of the PR department will be suspended and replaced by the vice president. The other departments will continue. No one expected that a seemingly innocent and harmless little girl would have such destructive power as soon as she opened her mouth. Everyone had been fooled by her appearance. But, if they thought about it carefully, this was Mo Ting's daughter, the CEO that was personally promoted. Was she really as innocent as she looked? Following on, the atmosphere in the meeting room became a lot more serious. This made Fang Yu, who was observing through the crack in the door, smirk. The little brat was used to being innocent, so these people had no idea how capable she was. But, in reality, Mo Zian had been influenced since she was young, so she knew everything that was going on in Hairui like the back of her hand. So, how could a child raised by this couple be simple? This was the atmosphere for a meeting. As soon as Mo Zian arrived, she showed everyone her power by using the PR department as an example to establish her authority. This also let everyone know that she was young, but it didn't mean that she was easy to trick. Afterwards, the planning department made a few suggestions. They even mentioned which projects Hairui would focus on for the next half of the year and which artists they would focus on promoting. Mo Zian thought about the projects that she and Gu Qingli had discussed a few days ago. She felt that 2 of the projects had potential, so she placed the proposal on the table and said to the planning department, "Put aside the projects that you've discussed for now. If you're still working with us, then continue working with us. As for new projects, I have a few good suggestions." The people in the planning department looked at each other in confusion. Luckily, Mo Zian only laid off the people in the PR department and did not investigate the other departments. Otherwise, everyone would be trembling in fear. But the meaning behind Mo Zian's actions was obvious. The fate of the PR department was the best example for them. During this meeting, the staff at Hairui were extremely nervous and uneasy. But no matter what, they had to change their opinion of the new CEO of Hairui. After a day of work, Mo Zian felt like her entire body was about to fall apart. Being the CEO of Hairue was indeed not easy. She had actually done a lot of preparation the night before, and with Gu Qingli's guidance, she wasn't fooled by those old foxes. Now that he thought about it, the young were indeed looked down upon. When Gu Qingli saw her throwing her high heels everywhere, he couldn't help but follow behind her to clean them up. It's only been a few days, and you can't take it anymore? Fourth brother, that's because you don't know how difficult it is to deal with those people. President Mo has been in this position for over 10 years, while you have only been in this position for a few days. Plus, if you really don't like this industry, then this position will be a shackle to you. I know, you talk too much, Mo Zian said as she lay on Gu Qingli's body. Mo Zian said as she lay on top of Gu Qingli's body. How could I not love the entertainment empire that my father single-handedly created? Hairue's sci-fi films, artists and everything about Hairue is the best in the industry. As a member of the Mo family, it's my duty to protect this honor. So, you still know, Gu Qingli said as he carried her into the bedroom. Go have a bath and come out for dinner. Mo Zian nodded her head and grabbed her pajamas into the bathroom. But as soon as she entered the bathroom, she did not come out. It wasn't until Gu Qingli entered the bathroom that he took a closer look. Mo Zian was lying on the edge of the bathtub, fast asleep. From the looks of it, she was really tired. After all, how could Hairue's heavy responsibilities be taken on so easily? With this thought, Gu Qingli pulled Mo Zian out of the bathtub and placed her on the bed. This was his woman, so he naturally had to dote on her. However, Mo Zian was so tired. It seemed, apart from work, the couple had no other time to be intimate. Because of this, Mo Zian didn't want to give up. Plus, she hadn't had a chance to greet her roommates yet. So, she decided to take this opportunity to visit them at school. As soon as her roommates saw her, they all rushed to hug her. Where have you been? I haven't seen you in so many days. I was at work. You guys don't know how tiring it is to work. What do you do? I work as a secretary. Of course, she was working for her father. Mo Zian wasn't wrong to say that. So, you're not going to come to school anymore? You're indeed only interested in the opposite sex. The roommates chatted in the cafeteria. Soon, Gu Qingli arrived. When Mo Zian saw this, she immediately moved aside and let Gu Qingli sit down. The two sat very close to each other and were very intimate. I saw your rings. Did you guys propose? One of Mo Zian's roommates gossiped. Mo Zian looked at the ring on her finger and shook her head. I don't even know what's going on. How did I end up with a ring on my finger? I thought you guys were close to getting married. But, from the looks of it, you guys don't seem to care about what others think. I don't come to school often anymore, Mo Zian humphed. Don't bully my brother during class. Please, who would dare to bully Professor Gu? Unless they want to fail a class. As the roommates chatted, they had no idea that people around them had noticed the rings on their fingers. Previously, Gu Qingli had announced to everyone that he was married. But the person wearing the other pair of rings was actually a female student. This Professor Gu was actually in a teacher-student relationship? The school obviously didn't allow it. Was Professor Gu's reputation about to collapse? Mo Zian had no idea the impact that her visit to the school had on Gu Qingli. However, Gu Qingli noticed that the teachers and students looked at him strangely in various ways. So, this is the hypocritical Professor Gu. He looks like a decent person, but he's a hypocrite. Exactly. He claims that he's married, but he's still flirting with a female student. What a sanctimonious person. Gu Qingli occasionally heard rumors, but he did not pay much attention to them. But, lately, there had been more and more rumors around the school. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.